Hey, good morning, everybody. Today we have in studio as our guest Dr. Joaquin Wallace, and he's going to be here talking about how he has written and published a book about generational wealth management. It's a generational wealth model, and the floor is yours, Dr. Wallace.
Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this podcast episode. Anytime I get a chance to talk about my new book, I am excited. I'm smiling, as you can see.
Right. Yes. So give our listeners a little bit about your background and where you grew up and those types of things, and then we can kind of jump into how you came about to write your book.
Well, I was born and raised in Oakland, California. I was a former student athlete. I graduated in 1983 from Oakland Tech. I played baseball at the college level. And I thought I was going to play for the Oakland A's at one point, as we all did.
Right.
Now the A's have moved on, but at one
Yes.
point I thought I was going to play center field for the Oakland A's. As I mentioned, went on to play college, graduated in 1989 with a bachelor's in economics. I then went on and got my master's in marketing at Golden Gate University, as well as my PhD from Golden Gate University as well. Had a nonprofit I started in 1997 called Project Transition, which was a really good nonprofit. It was a welfare to work program. And I wrote my first book in regards to that. Won tons of awards. I would think the biggest award or accomplishment or accolade was being recognized as one of the most influential African Americans in the 21st century. In the luminaries in the book was Senator
Right.
Barack Obama at that time.
Wow.
Yeah, he was in
Okay.
there. Oprah Winfrey during that time. Then I started coaching basketball. I was coaching college. I was coaching high school basketball during that time. And then in 2005, I became the head coach at San Francisco State, did that to 2014, 15. And once I left, I got into the insurance business. I was introduced to insurance. I was my first insurance actually was selling Aflac.
Oh, the duck. The
The duck,
duck.
supplemental insurance. But I learned a lot about supplemental insurance and the importance of that. And then I got an opportunity to work for Prudential. Did that. From Prudential, went to Penn Mutual, back to Prudential, where I became a financial planner and advisor. And I wound up leaving Prudential in July of 2025.
Wow. Okay. So that definitely qualifies you as something that we used to say in the military as a subject matter expert. And on my show, on my podcast, we have three different types. You can do a personal journey or either a blended show, personal journey, SME. But you are here more today in the role as a subject matter expert for generational wealth model. And your background certainly highlights that you are well versed in this. So let's jump into it. Can you tell our audience why you decided to write the book, Generational Wealth?
Well, the book was a self-inventory of myself, as well as working with many of my clients over the years. So when I came up with the title, Generational Wealth Begins with Generational Knowledge, we trademarked the title. And it was interesting why it was trademarked. So I was doing a virtual workshop with this one group. And through the workshop, I said, generational wealth begins with generational knowledge. And going through the
Right.
workshop itself, someone came on LinkedIn and wrote, Dr. Wallace says generational wealth begins with generational knowledge. I said, you know what? I better trademark that.
Right.
So the next day, I went through the trademark paperwork to get the TM.
Right.
And then this year, we finally got the R version, the registered trademark. And so the book basically suggested that, generational wealth begins with generational knowledge. And we know that it does because, as I mentioned in the book, by the time you get to your grandchildren, 10%
Right.
of the wealth that you earn will be maintained or ascertained by your grandchildren, 30% by your children itself. So think of it as 100% of the money that you earn, 30% will be maintained with your children and 10% by your grandchildren. So if you look at it from that perspective alone, generational wealth does begin with generational knowledge. And we know of countless stories and celebrities, so to speak, who have basically made it financially, if you look at it from the outside, but
Right.
in terms of transferring their wealth, they didn't do a good job of that. Obviously, you like Aretha Franklin, Chadwick Boseman, Prince, all of these luminaries, these very famous individuals. But more so, there's more people who fall in that category that we don't know about.
Right. So hold on. Let me stop you right there then. So did you write this book with a general group of people to get, like marginalized communities, or who were you targeting, or yeah, how did you pick out an audience for this book?
Well, what happened over the course of time, again, I wrote it from a first person. It was a self inventory of myself. The model itself, and I'm sure we're going to get into the model is colorblind. So it doesn't matter
Okay.
who you are, what ethnicity, it doesn't matter. The model is colorblind in itself. When I wrote the
Okay.
book, I wrote it from my personal lens. Now, from my personal lens, obviously, I'm a person of color, right? And so I'm going to look at life a little bit different, right? And
I'm glad you told me.
yeah, well, you may not know that, but I am, right? But I may not look like it, but I am, right? But at the same time, when I wrote the book, I wrote it from my own personal experiences and the interactions I had throughout my time as a financial advisor and a planner. So,
Okay.
based upon that alone, yes, it's written for the marginalized communities, but anyone and everyone can benefit from it. But the next question
Okay.
was asked to me, well, who did you write it for specifically?
Right.
And it was two markets that I wrote the book for. The first market, I firmly believe there's five financial professionals: the financial educator, the therapist, the advisor, the counselor, and the planner. Those are the five financial professionals. And I believe that each of those financial professionals usually for the most part, transfer their financial genetic code, which we're going to get into, the inherited financial narratives, to their clients,
Right.
unbeknownst to them subconsciously. They don't know that they are. And the reason why I say
Okay.
that is because we're all in the business because of something. Something
Yeah.
happened to say that I want to get into the business. So if that's the case, I'm taking information, I'm taking what I've learned, and I'm coming into the business because of something. It was a cause and an effect. The
Right.
other
So what was your catalyst? What was your catalyst then?
for my catalyst is that I personally, when I was in the business itself, I liken myself to the barber, right? And so
Okay.
I was always cleaning up everyone, making sure everyone was looking good, but myself,
Right.
no one was doing that type of work for me. And so
Yeah.
I was not
Okay.
able to take advantage of the information that I was transferring to those clients. And oftentimes, and not, I was looking at it from a different lens. This is what
Okay.
I would do in this situation versus looking at it as, well, let's understand that person in particular. And we get into the financial genetic code. The other group of people that I wrote the book for was for you and I, whether you're a thousandaire, millionaire, billionaire, hundredaire, nowhere, right? All those
I'm in
individuals,
there somewhere.
right?
I got some air somewhere.
Listen, we were in there somewhere, right? But
Right.
but at the end of the day, the book was written for you as well too, because there is some inherited financial narratives that we have been given to us, unbeknownst to us, transferred to us without our permission, which created our encoded financial behaviors, which creates our financial genetic code.
Wow. Okay. So without giving away the secret sauce, the financial genetic code, is that developed through your life? Is that something that you acquire, or just watching your parents? Is it a law of primacy kind of imprint? What would you say it is?
Well, it's all of those.
Without trying to get, it's all of
Yeah,
those.
it's all
Okay.
of those, but you'll know more when you pick up the book. But it's all of those because think of it, we all come from inherited financial right narratives. And so
Right.
when you look at the model itself, stage one of the model is our internal and external ecosystem, walls in and walls out. Walls
Right.
in is everything that we learn inside the home. And oftentimes our first financial fiduciaries were our parents, uncles, aunties, friends. They
Yeah.
may not have been the most qualified, but they was giving us our first financial advice.
Yeah. And they were giving it to you from their lens of what they were
Exactly.
dealing with, or how they were introduced to it as well. Because, two personal items, or two personal things that people never really discuss, is their money and, some other personal things. But money is probably the top one that people don't discuss outside of the walls with other people, because of either fear or misunderstanding, or you always hear about negative things too when you talk about certain people. Who was the guy that a long time ago, he got a lot of money from a lot of people, and he was a financial Bernie somebody, remember him? And
Yes.
he took a lot of money from his clients. So you always hear, negative in the United States is always kind of the lead thing. But yes, continue. I'm sorry.
No, no, that's a great point because those are your inherited financial narratives. And so in the
Right.
book, we identified a table 20, chapter 2 of the book, and it provides you these inherited financial narratives. So the one that you're mentioning is one I call the scar tissue narrative. something
Oh,
that's
wow. Okay.
happened before and you carry that along with you, may have been burned, cut, whatever the case may be, or had a misfortunate introduction to money. Anything can happen. You can watch your family, friends, whatever the case may be. So that's a scar tissue
Right.
narrative. You're continually carrying that on. So you're less apt to be involved, so to speak. Then you look at walls out. This is what you see when you walk outside the door. And for the
Right.
most part, what you see when you walk outside the door is how you judge success, right? And it's no mystery when you look at, and I always look at the athletes because they're right in front of us. And so look at what they do and how they show that they're successful. They purchase large ticket items, things of that nature, and that may be a byproduct simply of their neighborhood,
Right.
right?
Right. Because if you come from nothing and then all of a sudden overnight you got $10 million, you don't even know that you are a brand or a company, and that money will just fly right through your hands,
Fly
right?
right through your hands. But what you do know is that you have more money than you had before, right?
Yes.
And you coming from remember your internal external ecosystem, the walls out. This is what I see. So what the book basically suggests that our behavior with money, our relationship with money was based upon our internal and external ecosystem, inherited financial narratives, which is the why, and the encoded financial behaviors, which is the action, which creates your financial genetic code, which focuses on both the trauma and anxieties that we carry with us.
Okay. Yeah. So that's good. So how long did it so from the beginning thought of your process to say, I'm gonna write a book to the time that it was published, how long was the process? And did you have a lot of writer's blocks or a lot of things get in your way? Can you share that with our listeners, please?
So I started the writing of the book in August of last year, and the actual writing itself was completed in February of this year. But the editing from in the book, which is the most important piece, the process is the editor. I always ask me about the editing is more so like they're the Quincy Jones, right? They're the one
Right.
they're going to put the book together, right? That's the end. That's the final act of the book.
Right.
That we began that process in March of this year, and we ended it June 25th of 2025, and we released it on June 27th, 2025. So
Okay.
imagine all of that editing. Probably rewrote it, I would say between 15 to 25 times.
Wow. That's a pretty condensed schedule then, huh?
Yeah, it was very intense simply
Right.
because we wanna make sure that everything was done correctly, and in the beginning too, I initially pitched my idea to many publishers,
Okay.
and they all said no, which actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise,
It's
simply because they can put you on a word count, and they put you on a time frame. Well, in this case, I didn't have a word count, nor did I have a time frame, and so
right.
I know individuals who have went through the publishing side of 'em, they have their stories, and they look at what I've done, they say, "Man, I shoulda went the route that you went through." But at that time, I was definitely not a happy camper when they told me
Right. Right.
no, simply
Yeah.
because I was like, "Why would you not want this book? I think this book is a great book."
Yeah.
They didn't think the same thing, but again, you
Right.
have
Yeah.
to take it's not personal. You have to take
Right.
you have to remove yourself from
Come
that. Once I was able to do that and say, "Well, you know what? I'm going to write this book." Went through the
right.
process, self-publishing, so to speak, but it allowed me to have more freedom in regards to even the cover of the book. The cover has 4 to 5 subliminal messages. So
Okay.
I can craft it the way I wanted to craft it. And I was able to take a lot of my podcasts and integrate it within the book itself. So it's a
Well,
unique book because we have the podcast interviews, testimonials, and with that in terms of the research that I've done, we have like 300 to 400 sites in the book itself. So it's a
okay.
really well orchestrated and well written book, in my opinion. And that's what you're hearing on Amazon in terms of the reviews as well.
Right. So this is a great time then to just kind of give yourself a shout out and let people know about your podcast and some of the other ways they can get in touch with you, please.
Absolutely. The New Wealth Wave podcast. We've been in podcast world since 2024 of January. Now we're up to about 800 subscribers. Before the book was released, interesting, before the book was released in June of, like I said, June 27th, 2025, we had 356 subscribers. Since the book has been released, we've doubled that. We're targeting 1,000 possibly by the end of next month, probably getting to
Okay.
1,500 by the end of the year. So the podcast is definitely growing because of the interest of the book, because people are reading the book and they see that the book is a complement to the
Community to the
podcast, and the
podcast.
podcast is a complement to the book.
Right. So are you on Podbeam, Spotify, or where are you located in the podcast
In the
world?
podcast world. So we're on all the social media outlets and YouTube. So that's how we use Riverside as
Okay.
well too.
Right. Now, tell me something. Who do you find it? Do you personally counsel people, or are you talking to people through your book and your podcast? How are your services, or how does your services come about when somebody wants to get a hold of you and those types of things?
Yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, you go to my website, drjwallace.com. You can book a one-on-one there. As I mentioned earlier, I was a financial planner and advisor for Prudential. I've taken some
Okay.
time away now to really promote the book, but I do have all my license. I'm still active in that field. I do workshops. I love doing workshops because I think it's so important. And that's how I got started. Workshops kind of took me to where I'm at today. I just
Right.
recently did a workshop with 23, or actually 46 high school students that was outstanding, talking about money. We basically, when we look at, it wasn't a financial literacy workshop, and I try to stay away from the term financial literacy, and I have my reasons why. It was more so creating and understanding your financial genetic code. Because to me, that's where it all starts versus a financial literacy workshop. So the students kind of was apprehensive in the beginning, really didn't know what to
Yeah.
expect, but it
Right.
turned into like they was so excited at the end. I mean, it was talking back and forth. We worked in groups and workshops in the workshop setting. It turned out to be a book signing because each one of them got received a book and pictures and
Right.
everything else. So it really, really was encouraging, at the end.
Okay. Do you enjoy that with getting it out there to the especially to the young people with regards to letting them have that financial literacy at an early age?
Absolutely. I think it's important. So, financial literacy to me is a linear process. It's not taught in a holistic approach. That's why I really focus on financial edification. That's the word that I use, and create understanding your financial genetic code. Because again, if you understand your financial genetic code, then you will be in a better position to make the right decisions going forward, because every person, your financial genetic code is different from my financial genetic code. And it's so important to know that, because as a financial
Right.
planner or advisor, then you need to know, well, let me understand where this person is coming from. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, we talk about the five financial professionals. If I don't
Right.
really know who that person is, I can give them information in a vacuum. But it's important also to know who you are.
Right.
Once you know who you are,
You are.
right, you are in a position that can help people be more of a servant leader
So
because
I'm coming to you as a client. So
mhm,
let's just do a role play
okay,
real quick
role
here.
play.
I'm coming to you as a client. Dr. Wallace, I'm Stanford Lee. I'm coming in here to help me with my books and my management, and this is what I got. How would you see me?
Well, a couple of things. One, first and foremost, you, Mr. Lee, will need to know exactly, really,
Right.
what kind of service do you need? Because that's a
Okay.
great question. Because do you need a financial counselor? Do you need a financial advisor? Do you need a financial planner, educator,
Right.
or therapist? Because,
I
and
need
that,
a
right,
therapist.
right. Because think about it, really, because I can give you all the information that you need, but
Right.
if you don't have the therapy in place, you're
Yeah.
not going to you're still going to go
No.
back to those
Yeah.
flashpoints that triggered you earlier in your life. Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's why, in terms of financial literacy, is being taught on a linear process. This is a process that everybody should follow this process. No, it's not, simply because everyone is different. And
Yeah.
financial
Yeah.
literacy can be financial shaming at the same time, because if you're
Right.
not doing the things that we prescribe for you to do, then what's wrong with you?
Right.
But what's
Yeah.
rational for you may be rational for me. But what may be rational for me may be irrational to you. So we have to really understand, where are you coming from? And I think that's why a deep dive is needed by the end user, so to speak, to know exactly, what do you need? How can I
Right.
help you? Let me direct you to that person or persons. And then when
Right.
you're ready for me as a planner and advisor, you are able to acquiesce, so to speak, and be very
To execute
Yeah,
it.
to execute it, because if not, you're not gonna execute it. Trust me, I've been doing this for a long time, and you find them say, "Why are you doing the same thing? And what does that mean?
Why
And
did you come to me?
why did you
Yeah,
come
why
to
did you
me
come to
when
me
you
in
was"
first? Yeah, in the
exactly,
first
when you
place.
rather
Yeah,
wasn't ready to make the decision or do the thing.
yeah.
'Cause
I'll take your money. Yeah, I'll take your
I'll
money.
take your
But yeah,
money, but, you're still not executing. So I find that it's so important for you, Mr. Lee, to know exactly what do you need. And once you
right,
identify that, then you go to that person, then you're able to, to execute what you want in terms of your objectives
right.
and goals.
So if you were picking me up as a client, do you say, hey, you get like a 20-minute or half hour free counseling, or what is the deal, or how does that work? So I'm your
Yes,
client. What?
great question. So, you and I would talk. We have a questionnaire that's asked simple questions, to figure out exactly what are you trying to do. What's your goals, right? Because it's
Okay,
really important to know what your goals are. Some goal people say, I want to buy a house. Okay, that's fine, but I'm a financial planner. I'm a financial advisor. If you want to purchase a home, maybe you need to be with a financial counselor, a financial counselor.
but you see how closely all of those things are
Absolutely,
related. So people can always be going, kind of putting a square peg in the round hole kind of thing. And just because you just don't know the difference in who you are reaching out to or who you are. First of all, when you see financial and you don't have any of that genetic coding to kind of dig into it, you think you're heading to the right place, right? So
absolutely,
it can be, yeah, yeah, but
absolutely.
definitely, definitely. So, how does your family integrate, or how does your family work out with this? And does it take a lot of time from you and your family, or what?
Well, again, we had to go through the same process. Me and my wife been together for over 30 years. So we can't, yeah,
Congratulations.
well,
That's you got to take a moment there, brother. You got to take a moment,
I
especially in this world, in this
yeah, I
time.
appreciate that. Yeah, no, 30 years. Yeah, it's a long time, right? Listen, I've been with her half my life.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
just turned 60. I've been with her 30, actually 34 years, 35 years I've been with her,
So when
married
you
to her.
look at her, you're looking at
Yeah,
success,
I'm looking
right?
at
Yeah, because
success.
she.
Yeah, literally,
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
her, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I can tell you that right now. So I'm blessed big
Right.
time.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
we went through the same process, again, because we came from two different financial genetic codes, right? And
Yeah.
it's taken us time. Within the last 5 years, we really started to understand our financial genetic code in regards to
Right.
money, being able to communicate about money, right? Because again, as you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, it's a taboo topic. No one
Yeah.
talks about it, walls in nor walls out, right?
Right.
And it creates so much stress within a relationship. Now,
Right.
what we don't know, well, let me rephrase that. What we do know is that money does come into play in terms of relationships, good, bad, or indifferent.
Oh yeah. Because if you don't have it,
Right. We know it's going to be some
the
issues,
stress is
right? It's going
right
to be a
there,
lot of
right? Yeah.
stress, right? And we also know it's a linchpin, so to speak, in regards to divorces. We know that money,
Right.
but the driving point to that is that each of us come from, again, we have a different financial genetic code, but
Right.
we
Right.
never
Yeah.
talk about that. And
Yeah.
so, you may be money avoidant. I may be frivolous with money, right?
Right.
It's
Frugal, right.
frugal. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't know until we're in the fight, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. And when people get married, money is not the first thing that they're discussing or talking about. Y'all out on the dates, whining and dining each other. He's doing okay. She's doing okay. But I
Absolutely.
think it's yeah, yeah. But nowadays, does your book give anybody any guidance about how to merge the assets or anything like that, or what, or
What
do there strategies and stuff like that in the book?
So what people have said that have read the book, it's a great blueprint on how to achieve generational wealth. It's a great blueprint. But let me go back. Let's talk about the model. So I think once you hear the model, then it would all make sense. So the
Okay.
model is based on three phases: the past, the present, and the future. Stage one and two are the past. We mentioned that earlier. You have your internal, external ecosystem, walls in, walls out. You have your financial genetic code, which focuses on financial trauma and anxiety. So that's your past. Your
Right.
present is stage three, which is financial healing, reprogramming your financial genetic code, which is stage two and one. The healing is something that we just don't do because we don't talk about it. So remember, we talked about the five financial professionals. Well, a
Right.
financial therapist is in there as well. Many people don't even
Okay.
know there are financial therapists. Behavior characteristics come into our relationship with money. So stage three, which is the present, is financial healing, where you reprogram your financial genetic code. Stage four, in the present as well, is financial edification, which focuses on financial literacy and financial inclusion. Literacy we know, but it's being taught in a linear process. The inclusion is where we struggle. Inclusion includes life insurance, qualified plans at work, disability insurance, long term care, investing, home purchasing. All of those things are in the inclusion. But many of us do not participate in that because of our stage one and stage two.
It's too right.
Something may have happened that prevents individuals from participating in their qualified plans at work. That may be that scar tissue narrative, right? That we talked
Right.
about it.
Yeah, so let me jump in here for just a minute. So, right now, with all the economic pressures and everything that's going on with people, and a lot of people are in a survive mentality because of how things are going. You just get hit with so much negative things. So, your book takes people from a survive kind of mentality to a thrive mentality if they follow the steps and follow the model, right?
Yeah, it's following the steps, but following the model. But most importantly, is understanding and learning who you are, which is
Okay.
important. Regardless of everything, if you don't have an idea of who you are and why you make the decisions or your relationship with money is the way it is, it really doesn't matter what happens because you're always going to revert back to those episodes. So
To
that's
what you're comfortable with.
what you're comfortable with, right? I mean, that's just the reality. That's what we know. So
Right.
again, so stage three and four, that's the present. Stage five is the future. That's financial well-being. Financial health is financial wealth. This is your soft landing. This is where we're
Right.
all trying to reach. Each of us is trying to reach stage five, financial well-being. Stage
Let me ask you
six,
something.
yeah, go ahead.
So do you have people come, so say like, is it almost like an addiction then or something like, how people join Alcoholics Anonymous or they need help or something like that? Do you have repeat clients and say, hey, Dr. Wallace, I was doing it and I kind of fell off. How does that work? Or do you stay away from that and you give them to the financial therapist? And then after they've had that, do they come back to you or what?
Well, before that's a great question. Before I wrote the book, I would always take them back on. But once I got into the process of writing the book, I determined that no, you need to go meet with the financial therapist because we need to unpack what's going on with you because you're constantly falling back as backsliding, so to speak. You're
Right.
constantly going back. So we need to figure out, you need to figure out why. And so you will hear from clients say, hey, Dr. Wallace, I fell off the horse. Can we meet? Can we get back on track? And things happen in life. Life be lifing. We know that,
Be life. And yeah,
right?
that's what my son says
Right?
all the time.
Life be lifing. But at the end of the day, something is triggering your life to be lifing. And so we
Right.
need to figure out what that is because, again, we'll be back to the same point A again, and we need to be
Yeah.
moving forward. So stage five is financial well-being. Stage six is generational knowledge. This is where you create your financial footprint. So generational knowledge is estate planning, trust, both irrevocable and irrevocable trust, power of
Right.
attorneys, life insurance, long-term care. All of these will successfully allow you to transfer your assets. So the question is, what's important, generational knowledge or generational wealth? Well, I think generational knowledge is equally as important as generational wealth because we've watched, we witnessed that those individuals who didn't have the generational knowledge did a poor job of transferring the generational wealth, which is stage
Right.
six, basically says creating your financial footprints to get to stage seven, which is generational wealth. So that's the
Right.
model
Okay.
itself, and it's a holistic model. It depends on where you're at the time, but you're going clockwise and you're going counterclockwise. It depends on where you're at. Your present is where you're at today. You may
Okay.
be in stage five, which is financial well-being, but something can happen to trigger you, take you back to stage one, triggering those emotions that happened long before it happened in your
Right. Right.
childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Emotional damage is real,
It's
and it
real.
stays with you for a lifetime if you don't get the necessary, if you don't get the
The
necessary
therapy.
counseling. Yeah. The therapy stuff.
The therapy. There it is, right?
And there
Financial
it is.
therapist.
Right. 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 So so do you do book clubs or do you have an online community do you allow your subscribers to come to you with questions or feedback or do you sort of like say have a session? online or anything like that from time to time?
That's great that you asked me that because that's what we're going to be launching in 2026. All of those things, right? And so, when you look at it, the book was just released June 27th. And
Right, okay.
it hasn't been 90 days. So if you look at it from a
That's awesome.
perspective, it's like, wow, it hasn't been 90 days. The 27th
Yeah.
of September will be 90 days. Time flies, but it still looks like it's paint drying too. It's like, man, it's
Right.
taking a long time. But during
Yeah,
that time, we're bestseller. I mean, just imagine that. Amazon
right,
bestseller within 30 to 40 days, which was incredible considering I had
right,
no publishing company supporting it at all. We've sold a nice share of books so far, and the books are still selling. And there's so much opportunity that's on the horizon, so to speak.
right.
I would love to be a part of I had an opportunity to meet with 5 superintendents of high schools of the AB 2927 in terms of financial literacy. The Gavin Newsom
Okay.
law, you graduate, you need to have some sort of financial literacy course. I would love to have my book or being able to construct the curriculum for use of high school students graduating. I think it's important. But the key to that is that many people are focusing on the math of it all. And I'm
Okay.
saying, no, it's more than the math. We have to look at it from a behavior. We have to look at the inherited financial narratives, encoded financial behaviors. So financial genetic code, trademark that as well, because I'm going to come out with an entire new curriculum based upon the financial genetic code,
Right.
which is important because again, once you're able to identify that, I
Yes.
do believe you'll be able to move forward. And that's what the book does. The book will help you identify where you're at. We have 7 chapters, basically in the entire model itself that we go through.
Right.
It's broken up in 3 phases: the past, the present, and the future, just like my podcast, just like the model itself. So
Right.
chapters 1 to 2, we're dealing with stages 1 and 2, vice versa 3 and 4, which is really good. And we do talk about some investing, so to speak, just some idea, just from an educational aspect, simply
For the
because, yeah,
awareness.
just the
Yeah.
awareness, knowing the difference between the index, knowing the difference between the life insurance policies, understanding what long-term care is all about, disability insurance. So those are so important because we don't know exactly what it entails. And so
Right.
it really focuses on that. I was on an interview a couple of weeks back, and the interviewer said when he read the book, he said he thought of himself going into the mall, and when you go into the mall, they have a map, and then within the
Right.
map, it has "You are here." And
Right.
he felt that was the greatness of the book because basically saying, "This is where you're at, and this is where you're going." Now, what the book also says in the beginning, do not try to read it in one sitting. Take your time, go through the book because there's so much you're going to unpack. Each chapter in the book
Right.
has self-assessment questions. So
Right.
now you're
Okay.
able to go through, answer the questions itself. Many of the financial professionals that have read the book swear by the book, and they're constantly going back through the book to make sure that they're addressing their own personal inherited financial narratives, for one, but they're able to really sit down with their client and give them a better effort because they're advising and counseling them from a
Right.
servant leadership perspective.
Have you had anybody come back to you and say, "Hey, Dr. Wallace, I just want to thank you for, helping me out and with my finances." And I'm in the education arena myself. I've been a teacher or an instructor, depending on what you say. Sometimes you say teacher, facilitator, instructor, but bottom line is I know that I have to kind of moderate myself because if you start using the words from the college or if you start using the words and you get too low, I guess what I'm trying to say is people know when you're talking down to them or talking over them. And it sounds like your book is really able to connect to a whole bunch of people in the sense of not being able to talk down to somebody or talk above them. Right.
Yeah, when I wrote the book, so when I was doing a lot of my workshops and doing like focus groups, and one of the questions I was asking, how should I write the book? Could I dumb it down? Should I write it in my own vernacular? Should I write it from an academia aspect? Where should I write it? And how should I position it? And with everyone said the same thing. Make us pick up a dictionary. Make us pick up a thesaurus. Do
Right.
not dumb it down. Force
Okay.
us to read. Force us to learn. And so that's what I did. Now, again, from marginalized communities, there's some things that are said in there you say, okay, Yeah, I know where he from, right?
Yeah.
But for the same, it was interesting. One person left a comment on Amazon, 5-star, yeah, great review, and he says, I'm paraphrasing, but he says,
Right.
"Great book, very applicable, great, great." I mean, it was very, very complimentary of it. He said, but it was kind of informal, and I was like, "Okay, all right, then that's fine." He felt it was informal, but listen, this is what he said: 5-star, recommended to everyone. So I tried to write it from my lens. I didn't want to write it. I didn't want to be too academia, but we did cite 300 to 400 references.
Wow.
So it's
Okay.
a lot of references. I tried to introduce a lot of authors that we never heard of, which was
Right.
important. Bring their work to light as well too. So I wrote it from an academia standpoint, but I also wrote it from my own personal lens.
So
I'm
you brought
very
up a good point there,
go
though,
ahead.
because a lot of times everybody tells you to find a niche, right? But financial generational wealth is not necessarily a niche topic, right? Because everybody can always use some education or some enlightenment with regards to where you are in a process. Like when you're in the middle of something, you're not looking at the whole picture. You're not looking at the whole scope. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
if you are in that situation and you just like, oh, I can't get out of this, can't get out of this, you need something to kind of break that cycle. And it sounds like that's what your book brings to people, to be able to break that cycle without necessarily saying that you have a niche market,
Yeah.
because even when I do my podcast, yeah, same thing. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And so that was the purpose of it all. I was very transparent in the book itself. I explained, my life growing up with coming off of welfare.
Right.
Chapter 2 is interesting because it resonates with a lot of people and in my age anyway. So,
Right.
they read the book and they was in it triggers. So we talk about how we refer to the welfare money as colored money, funny
Right.
money, colored money.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
people say, "Man, that took me back, going into the store. I remember my parents giving me the book. You had the book, you had to tear,
Yeah. The
right?
food
The
stamps
food
in
stamp
them.
with the
Yeah. Yeah.
colors,
Tear
right?
them
Right,
out.
tear them
They
out.
was orange and
Orange, right,
green and
green. They tell you
yeah.
the color, $10, 15, 25, right? 1, right?
You got me over here looking for
Right.
that block of
Okay,
cheese.
right. So so with that being said, that's financial flashpoints, right? Those
Yeah.
inherited
Yeah.
financial narratives, right? And so they recall going to the stores, waiting till everybody leaves, then
Yeah.
going up and then making their exchange,
Purchase. Yeah.
right? Making their purchase. But what we fail to realize is that we all, to the most part, was living the same. But we would
Yeah.
always tease and make fun of those individuals, but not realizing that was our source of survival.
Right.
And we talk about that in the book. I quote Angela Davis in the book as well. She had some great cites in that as well. So those are things we talk about. So from marginalized individuals, they say, yeah, okay, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I use the term, making groceries. That's something that we
Right.
use in our culture. Well, not every
Yeah.
culture uses that, but in our
Yeah.
culture,
Yeah.
that's something that we
Mm,
used. And
right.
so it was important for me to kind of stay transparent. But again, the model is colorblind. The book does have a marginalized lens, right? Scope, but everybody who reads the book takes something away
No
because to
way.
me,
Right.
it's the most well-rounded book that's been written. And Chat GTP says the same thing. Gemini says the same thing. We uploaded the manuscript and they was
Right.
kudos. So, and based upon again, the reviews you're hearing on Amazon, they're all echoing the same thing.
Do you have a copy of the book with you right there, right now?
Absolutely. I mean, I have this one
Can you
here.
hold it up?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
here. It's right here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Hold on. Stay right there a little bit. Yeah. There you go. And you got your fingers over your name, but
Okay,
I
let's go
like the
right here.
tree and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
There
yeah.
we go. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
it is right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So
That's the money shot
there's the
right there.
money
Yeah.
shot right
Thank you.
here. So
Yeah.
so let's talk about the cover.
Right.
Okay.
I saw. That's what I was about to say. I
Okay.
see the roots.
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
talk about
The
it.
DNA tree. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. Go
yeah, there
ahead.
you go. Okay, so there's 4 to 5 subliminal messages on the and me being in a position to not have a publishing company, I was able to really craft it the way that I wanted to craft it.
That you wanted to. Okay.
Right. So you see here, see here. Okay. So that's the DNA.
The helix. Yep.
That's your financial genetic code right there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
These are the
Yeah.
roots. These are inherited
Yep.
financial narratives. Okay.
Okay. Right.
These words outside, those are the steps to either help you attain generational wealth or not attain generational wealth.
Right. Yeah.
Here's the
Okay.
leaves. I mean, here's the tree, right?
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
people would say, well, what is this here? These are leaves. No, those are neurons.
Yeah. Okay. It's like the
Neurons,
brain firing
yes,
its synapses.
firing,
Yeah.
yes, that's what that is. So you get it, right? That's what it is.
I feel like I'm gonna take a test here today.
There you go. Well, those are the so I was able to really
Right.
craft it. So the cover of the book basically tells you what's inside of it. So when
Okay.
you hear the title, Generational Wealth Begins with Generational Knowledge, that's exactly what we're talking about. And the title of the book and that particular picture is telling you
Right.
exactly
Exactly.
what's in the book.
Right. Okay.
We're not
There's no
talking math.
secret.
This is
Right.
what's in the book itself.
Okay. Okay. So where is your next community meeting or anything related with the book? Are you doing any more public engagements with it or what's going on?
So on the 4th of October, I'm sitting at what they call a publishing table. Hayward Library actually invited me there. So I'll have copies of the book, some signings of it. Hopefully people will come. It's in Hayward,
Okay.
October 4th. If you're in the
Is
area,
that the one on the main
the
street?
main street.
Yeah, I think as you're getting ready to get on 580 or 880 or something.
Yeah,
Is that
it's the
close to
main street. I believe I can't tell you exactly where it's at, but it's on the main. It's only one hot library in
it's
Hayward. It's the main library in
oh,
Hayward.
okay, yeah, it sits on the corner,
Sits on the corner,
right?
right where all the
Yeah.
trees and stuff. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, yeah. It used to be a coffee shop or something there. I just can't remember,
Well,
but yeah, I just
hopefully I'll
can't.
see you there. Do you come
Yeah,
by and
yeah. I
get
was
your
just about to
yeah,
say. Now that I know
yeah.
that I need to get the book.
You get that book and we'll sign it, right? But
Right, right. Okay.
typically what happens is that, people would ask me to come onto the show and I would say, read the book and then we'll come on. Once they
Right.
read the book, people
Yeah.
have a whole different perspective.
Effective.
A
Right.
whole different perspective because now they see themselves in the book. They say, I read this part here and this resonated with me and this is what I got out of it, which is great. The one of the things that I do believe what I know that needs to happen is that, for whatever reason, culturally, we just don't read a lot. I
Right.
mean, that
Well,
unfortunately,
now everything is just so easy access,
yes, easy
because
access.
you can go to the Googleator,
Yeah,
just
right. And find out anything you want to find out, right?
yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah.
hurts us too,
You
right?
know,
Which hurts.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
the reason why I say that is that once you read the book, it's imperative. So all you listeners out there, when you buy this book, it's imperative. It's paramount that you
right.
leave a verified review on Amazon. Hopefully
Okay.
fives. The
Right.
reason behind that is that's the algorithm that places this book in front of more people. It's so
Okay. Yeah.
important. So
Right.
not only read the book, make sure you go on Amazon and leave a verified review. To me, that's like the icing on the cake because what that
Okay.
simply
Right.
does is like anything. Now we
Yeah.
have gotten to the point where, we would look at a review and say, well, I'm going to this restaurant or not, or if I'm going to watch, the latest Spike Lee
Right.
movie, I'm looking at the reviews. What is it? A 3.5? What does Rotten
Yeah.
Tomatoes say? Is it 4?
So you
Is it
say
5?
so you on Yelp a lot then, huh?
Right,
You
right. You're trying
use
to figure
yeah.
it out. Okay, am I going to that
Right.
restaurant? Okay, what does it say? Is it a 4.5, 5? Because you're not going to frequent a restaurant which is a 3 or a 2, right? You're
Right,
just not going
right.
to do that, right?
Well, I used to say my guidance before all of these things came out, and it was pretty easy. I would just be driving around sometime, and you look for the place where it was a line to get into.
That
If you
says a
saw
lot.
place,
That says a lot. Then coupled with the Yelp, right? You say, okay, well,
yeah,
no
yeah,
wonder this is a 5, okay, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
if it says 2.5 or 3, that's kind of
Right,
sketchy. I'm not
yeah,
doing that, right? So it's the same
yeah,
thing with books. When you're in that 4.5, I think we're like 4.8 currently right now, 4.8, which is good to 5, right? So if you're in
right.
that neighborhood, then it's people saying, well, no, we're not talking about 8 people. We're talking about like 34, 35 readers have read this book and given it a 4.8. So that's a
Okay,
nice good sample size. Okay, then
right,
this is a
yeah.
pretty good book, right? This is what these individuals felt about the book because they didn't have to leave a review, right? So if
Okay,
you
all
look
right.
at successful books, you look at the reviews. The reviews are
Okay,
telling you exactly, what the book is about, what's inside the book, and then people are more prone to purchase it because of that. May not have know
okay.
who the author is, but
Right.
Nonfiction anyway, don't know who the author is, to say, well, it's a 4.8. I'm interested in
Right.
finance or trauma, whatever the case may be. This is the
Yeah.
categories, is a 4.8. I'm going to get it because these 200 people who read the book said these things. Therefore, it must be pretty good.
Right.
So that's
Now I do have
important.
one thing. So it's kind of about the book, but not necessarily directly. So how did you go about getting your publisher now that they have this publisher on demand? Like if I order a book,
Mhm.
do you go and print that book that day or what? How does that work?
Yeah, so being Amazon, that's who we're published on demand. So how they work is that once the book is purchased, then they create it and then they send it out within 2 days.
Okay.
So
And
large,
so, but they don't, but
I've had some larger purchases, like 40 books. So it takes a little bit longer
right.
for all 40,
But
but
they don't have any say as to the content, your cover or anything else. They're just printing it
yeah.
for you,
So
right?
this
So
is,
there's,
yeah.
so there's, yeah.
I've done it. I've done everything. We've done everything. The company that I used did everything with create the KDP account. So everything was done. So only thing we need to do is pretty much get it on, push it to launch. Once it launched,
Right.
it took a couple of days for it to get on to the platform and Kindle hard or paper. And once that
Okay.
happened, then people started ordering it. And when it reached the Amazon bestseller, then you get a badge on the book indicating it's an
Okay.
Amazon bestseller, which
Then
is really
bestseller.
cool because, from this point going forward, I'll always
Right.
be known as an Amazon best-selling
Yeah.
author, which is great.
That's what I used to love about my mother, man, before she passed. She said, as long as you get your degree,
No one can take it
even if
away
you
from you.
lose your, yeah, and never say,
There's the one
they
thing they
said,
can't
she
do.
said, you'll be in court. They'll still be
Thank
calling
you,
you Dr.
doctor.
Wallace.
That's right. Don't matter what happens. Well, Dr. Wallace committed that crime. I did.
Yeah.
But you have to refer to doctor, though.
Dr. Wallace. Can't take it away
Can't
from
take
you,
that
baby.
away
Can't
from
take
me.
it away from me. Yeah.
And you know
Yeah.
what? And that's interesting. That's interesting because for so long, and I mentioned this in the
Right.
book, we have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It was so difficult for me for people to acknowledge me as Dr. Wallace. I just felt
Wow.
uncomfortable with that because
Wow.
with the neighborhood I came up from, there was no
Yeah.
doctors, right? Right.
Yeah.
And so
Well, you from Oakland
I'm from
and I'm
Oakland.
from Cleveland.
See, now the lands, you know what I mean, with Oakland, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, my role model was drug dealers, street
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Street
Yeah.
sales,
I
right?
had people telling me
Right.
all the time, oh, youngster, you ain't gonna make it to
Right.
25, you
Exactly.
know? Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to make it to 30, 40 years of age,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. And
athletics,
well, here we
yeah,
are.
here we are. Athletics allow me to get there, right? But
Right.
I didn't have any educational role models. And
Right.
so, it was interesting. So when I was doing this workshop, one of the things that I mentioned to these students was now in my life, I'm a champion for education, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
Right.
Education is
Education
crucial, brother. It is.
is the
Yeah.
key, right? And so I place education in 3 categories. So your bachelor's degree is for your parents, right? They stick their
Right.
chest out, my kids, made it, graded, it's awesome. Your
Yeah.
master's degree is for you because you said at that point, I've decided to go back to school to study something that I enjoy. So
Right.
you are pretty much paying for it. This is what you're doing. Your
Right.
doctorate, terminal degree, MD, JDs, Esquires, those degrees are all about generational change. Your job is now to transfer knowledge and to move a generation. And so that's
Reach one, teach
right.
one.
That's where
Yeah.
I'm at this point. I'm at the point now of just transferring knowledge and information to help those behind me. With that being said, to
Right.
really couch the conversation of money, your
Right.
relationship with money, but most importantly, determining what your financial genetic code is,
Right.
because again, those are those inherited financial narratives and encoded financial behaviors that we carry with us, who shape who you are and who I am.
Right. Right. So we've covered the book in great detail. And now as we get ready to close, we kind of have a little bit of a speed round. Are you ready for that?
I don't
Think
know.
you up
I
for
mean,
it?
we're gonna see.
Okay.
Yeah, the speed
Okay.
round. I don't know if I'm good at
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
But we're gonna find out. I hope I say the right thing.
Okay. Favorite food?
I love me. I used to love pasta, but then that the sugars in that. But listen. I love sea bass.
Sea bass,
I
okay.
love sea
Alright,
bass.
alright. Secret hobby, favorite hobby, I guess.
Favorite hobby is I love music.
Music,
I was a
okay.
touring keyboard player at one point, and, now I'm teaching myself how to play the trumpet.
Okay, awesome. My daughter plays the clarinet and the flute. Now, they might be the same thing, but I'm just blown away that I helped create somebody that can play an instrument.
Yeah, I mean, listen, playing an instrument
Yeah,
is phenomenal.
yeah,
Yeah, I toured
right.
for years.
Okay,
I was a piano player, jazz and
all
gospel.
right. Favorite kind of movies? Favorite types of movies?
Man, I love action.
Jason Bourne, huh?
Oh, come on now. Don't get me started on Jason Bourne. I'm really upset. When they had I forgot who the other guy was that did the off Jason Bourne. You know
Yeah,
the one I'm talking
yeah.
about?
I remember Joe. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
just did not do it justice. So,
Mm,
that was
the
so bad, we gotta bring back, we had to bring
yeah,
him
yeah.
back for the final one.
Right. Okay.
I love Jason Bourne movies.
If money was no object, where would you go and how long would you stay?
Portugal.
Portugal. Wow, you said that no hesitation, huh?
Portugal. I've been to Portugal twice, me and my wife, and I tell people eventually I'm going to move to Portugal.
Okay. Your
Well,
grandkids or
I
family
gotta
keeping
say
you?
"we" because it was my wife, right? Because I can't
I'm
go
about to
without
say,
her.
man.
We're going to
You
move
know
to
what?
Portugal.
Yeah, yeah. You better go on and give that woman a shout out,
Right, I
man.
can't
You
say
know what's her
"me."
name?
We,
Yeah,
Jamel.
we
Me
Jamel.
and
Okay,
Jamel
yeah,
are
you
will be
got
moving
yeah.
to Portugal.
Okay, okay. And
I have
kids,
one.
what?
Her name is
One.
Quinn,
Okay.
5 years old.
Quinn. Oh man, I tell you what, from 0 to 10, brother, you are a hero.
Oh, yeah.
But after 10, you become a zero because all the other people start coming into our life.
Well, that's how it happens with it. All my girls, right from 0 to 10, I was the best thing out there. Now, things change.
Yeah,
No, they still love me though. They do. But
right.
man, my granddaughter, I mean, I love her to death. She does no wrong. We go get ice cream all the time. My kids say,
Oh
you
yeah.
never did that with us. I said, well, it's just totally different now. Okay. I've softened up in my old age now. Exactly. Exactly. What are you talking about? Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. No, she's okay. She's all right. That's okay. That's okay. We'll take care of that.
Dr. Wallace, it's been great having you on the show, brother. And I thank you so much. Hopefully you'll come back and, maybe I can even be on your podcast. So
Yeah,
we'll just have to
eventually you
see.
can. I'll come back when you read the book because I think then
Okay, I can do that.
we're gonna have a
I
great
got my
conversation.
assignment
Yeah, your
now.
assignment
Yeah.
now. You have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
pick
So
up
I
the
got to
book.
come to say it again, please, for our listeners for October 4th at the Hayward Library, right?
Yes, October
What
4th.
time?
Believe it's 2 to 5. I think that's
So in the
I think it's in
afternoon.
the
Okay.
afternoon. Come on down, get your signed autograph copy, purchase the book.
I
I'll
can do
have
that.
some
I
on
can do
hand.
that. Yeah.
I have the copies with the actual badge on the book as well. And then we can
Okay.
conversate. And, I think it's going to be great. Buy a couple. I always tell people, buy a couple, gift it to someone else.
Okay. Yeah.
Buy a
Yeah.
couple and
Don't
gift
just
it.
look at yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
Success. Yeah. You don't live your life in a vacuum, and success has to be shared. Because sometimes there are some people who get someplace and they want to kind of shut the door. And I firmly believe that you have to be successful. It does you no good if you're just sitting in the room and puffing your chest out. I've got this and that. No, 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 man. You got to be real because you live in this life and you live in this life with other people. You need them and they need you. And that's what it's about.
absolutely.
Thank thank you so much, Dr. Wallace. This has been an enjoyable. Sometimes you get some interviews, you're like, you're praying it's just gonna work out, but I think
Well, I'm glad I wasn't one of those.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it can be challenges. You never know who's gonna show up on the end of the mic sometimes. But I love it that the fact that I don't do got you journalism. You know how people come on the show sometime and they think they're gonna be talking about something else, and then somebody picks up a paper and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, so tell us about that time you did that." We
Absolutely.
all got some things, yeah, yeah. So it's just what it is. It is what it is. But this has been another episode of Your Life in America, and I'm your host Stanford Lee. Thank you once again.